Hi, everybody. We're back for another episode of Writer's Room. Remember, if you like these, hit the like and subscribe buttons or even the little bell notification so you can find out when we upload more things. And I'm here again with Brian Pigg, author of Dark Lady. So hello, Brian.
Hello.
And this episode, we're going to talk about representation, because what's happened a lot, maybe the past, 20 years, maybe a little more, we're starting to get more female main characters, gay main characters, but something besides just white guys. And so that opens up a lot of things that maybe we weren't exploring before. So I'll throw it over to Brian for some initial thoughts.
Thank you. I actually prefer the non-white male character because I am obviously white male. And as you know, when we grew up in the 70s and 80s, all the heroes were white men. And it feels interesting to me to try and step outside of that box and show characters doing things that I think are absolutely normal. But we have this sort of Hollywood-driven, maybe misguided interpretation of what people can and can't do, or what they are or are not. And I don't think the world works that way. I think it's a lot more gray, and people can step into a role of a hero. Say, for instance, Kelly in Dark Lady. She's not the brightest bulb, and she's not the strongest person in the world, but she summons the courage and strength to get through these things and actually end up victorious. And part of that human side of it is much more interesting to me than the standard sort of hero's journey where, Luke Skywalker's awesome, and of course by the end he's super awesome. It's how many medals do you give the guy before you get a story about Chewbacca? You know what I mean? It's more interesting.
Right. Well, that has been like the standard. I teach a class, for those who don't know, called What Would Captain America Do? And part of the proposal I put together for whoever decides if you get to teach the class or not, was that one thing they've been trying to do to various degrees in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is to expand who's a hero and not just have white guys. And even so, because I guess most of them are white guys in the boardroom, sometimes they trip and they fall. So that when the first Avengers movie came out, all the male Avengers had action figures, but who didn't have an action figure? It was Black Widow, right?
Sure.
So someone points this out to them, and then they get all, flustered, and then there's a Black Widow action figure. But whoever, designed the stuff to begin with didn't even think, apparently, that we needed a female action figure because she's in the movie, right? She does stuff, but it just falls by the wayside. So getting those voices out there, having more representation, helps people see people like themselves on the screen. I saw an interview with, I think it's the guy who was starred in Rogue One, maybe? The main male character, not the female character, but I can't remember. I only saw the movie once, I think. I don't remember. But he has a Mexican accent, and his father went to see the movie, and he ended up crying. He's like, "Dad, why are you crying?" His father's like, "Well, he sounds like me." And he's like, "Well, yeah, they let me use my own accent. They didn't make me sound, like an American." And his father kept crying and kept saying, "He sounds like me. He sounds like me." And so, having someone who looks like you or sounds like you on screen doing heroic things does touch people. And so it's great that at least sometimes we're starting to see that.
And maybe this is my bias, but actually I think the female character, what was her name in Avengers?
You just said with names too well today.
Anyway, she is like one of the most interesting stories too. I just like, we don't get to hear this. Mm-hmm. It's like brushed over. And that, I think that's really what interests me, is the fact that everybody has a story, Doesn't matter what you're a mutant or an Avenger or just somebody investigating a crime that's not Angela Lansbury. You know, there's an interesting story to that backstory. You know, and everybody has one, right? Your entire life is essentially a story in your memory, and all of that adds up to where you are now and what you accomplish in this next hour of heroic drama. But that backstory isn't told. It's like the captain. Oh my God, we were just talking about him. Captain. Captain somebody. Captain America. Whatever. He's one of the ones I don't like. He's so stiff and he's so, you know, proper or something. It's like his backstory is almost like too.
Some of the characters, like from the 30s and 40s, that have carried over, I think that they come with that baggage. Because Superman is the same way, right? He's just always very good and upstanding, and there's very little moral gray to the character.
Right, and it's so uninteresting because even though as a white guy, he's a white guy, and I'm pretty morally upstanding. I mean, I've got a couple speeding tickets in my life, but that's about it. You know, I don't want to hear that story. That's boring. I want to hear about even Bruce. Oh, you know, of course I'm angry. I'm always angry, right? You know, it's well, why are you always angry? Let's talk about the story behind, you know, why is the Hulk always angry? You know, I like that in the movies that, you know, they've gone back and Thor has more of a backstory. He's not this sort of plain. Of course, he's a god, you know, and he can just do whatever he wants. Thor smash, you know, it's a little more interesting than this bland sort of flat. And here comes good with a hammer. Hooray! You know, it's.
Yeah, I think audiences are looking for more morally gray. At least, like, you know, from the mid '80s on, we got the Dark Knight and everything happening in the comic books. I think you can kind of see it in the comics. From you start off with these characters like Superman and even Batman. Well, the very first Batman, he did carry a gun around, but they kind of cleaned him up, and so then you get these really morally upright characters, and I guess that's what people really wanted. And then toward the '60s, they start getting a little more. They start getting personal problems, like Peter Parker has to he's trying to get a girlfriend, he has to go to high school, he's got this aunt, you know, and he's trying to keep a job as this little reporter or whatever, photographer. But personally, he's still a good guy, right? He's not necessarily morally gray, but he has problems, and even like originally, you know, Tony Stark has a cardiac condition, and he's alcoholic and whatever, but he wasn't necessarily that complex as a person. And then by the time you get to the 80s, and people are like, no, we want to see that darkness. We want to see people fighting their own inner demons. And so you start getting a lot more of these characters that are like, are they good? Are they bad? I know there were some Batman issues in the mid 80s where you couldn't really tell if Bruce Wayne had gone insane or not. And the commissioner was like, you know, how do I bring Batman in if it proves that he's, you know, like doing all these horrible things and everything? How do you bring in Batman? So then you get a problem of your superhero being like uncatchable, I guess, and what are you going to do if he goes psycho on you? But you're getting much more complexity in the inner life of the characters.
Yeah, I'm not sure how drawn I am to like people's inner demons, because say you have them, and maybe everybody has them, but when you look at like a real life hero, right, like this person who's Audie Murphy or somebody who did something so incredibly brave, that you look at his life, you know, he's just another guy, right? It was an extraordinary set of circumstances, maybe an extraordinary amount of luck, but he wasn't alone, and he stepped way outside of this box and just did something so amazing that most people can't imagine doing that. But he wasn't a superhero, right? He was just another guy. And I think that's when you start looking at it like that, and you say, okay, these people are really interesting, but they're just normal people. I find that incredibly interesting to me. I personally don't like Superman type characters. And in my first book, my primary character gets to be pretty Superman like, and that's why I'm I'm destined to kill her off because it's just. And then Kate walks in and solves everything. He's like, all right, well, that's no fun. That doesn't really explore anything interesting. But yeah, that's really why I like it. I like that sort of depth of normal human experience. Brene Brown likes to talk about how we've come in this world where we expect extraordinary, and anything that's not extraordinary is no longer good. And there's nothing wrong with a good life, you know what I mean? And then just have that good life step into something extraordinary. Now you've got a book. Whereas, you know, Superman comes from another planet. He can do anything he wants. You can't kill him. We actually have to invent a thing to make it, you know, to have a nemesis.
Characters have a tendency to get kind of superpowered over time as they sort of acquire things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in a way, I guess that kind of makes Black Widow more interesting because she is a person who doesn't have any superpowers, right? We have to buy that she's been trained to some fantastic, possibly edge of superhuman ability to just like fight.
Right.
But you're not supposed to believe it's actually supernatural or anything. She's just like really, really good.
Well, and honestly, she's accepted death, right? And that's something that nobody likes to talk about or wants to talk about. But here's a woman who's really good at what she does, but she's not a superhero. Somebody could kill her, but she's like, this is the thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it anyway. And that's very interesting to me. That's a person who's really, that's that bravery, that little thread of bravery in the middle that most people can't face.
Mm-hmm. So are there other characters that interest you or that you would like to put in your books maybe?
I just like real characters, and so I write, like I'm working on my space story right now. There's going to be homosexual characters because why wouldn't there be, right? Let's have a normal existence in a normal place with everything you would see normally. I mean, let's just make this normal, and then that allows you a box in which to play with aliens and spaceships and asteroids and things. But you have these normal people with normal lives and just what you want to consider normal. And normalizing, say, homosexuality or something, I think that's a step in the right direction towards a world where everybody gets to see themselves in a book or a movie or something.
Yeah, and that is tough because we come from cultures that have patriarchy, that have misogyny, that have homophobia, and even when you are aware of those things inside yourself because you're part of the culture and you've grown up there, it can still be very difficult to see it all, I guess. There was I read an article of this lady who did her PhD on how if you give people like two resumes and one says Janet and one says John, then John gets more job offers than Janet, even if the resumes are identical.
Yeah.
And so at one time, apparently she was bored or whatever, and she took her own test, and it turned out that she preferred John over Janet too. And she was like, I did my PhD on this. I designed this test. I took that. I know what I'm even looking for, right? And I still picked John. And then she's like, it's you have these biases that have been just sort of, I use the term baked in because it's not that you're going around going, I'm not going to hire any women. It's something that is you're trying to see it in yourself, and even then there's these blind spots, right?
Right.
So you just try to do your best, I guess.
And this is I think is a great space for creatives and artists, because you can maybe not subvert your own subconscious in the world in which you're operating, right? You see those two resumes and a John or Janet, you subconsciously you're already selecting. But if you pick a fictional world and a fictional group, you can normalize anything you want to normalize in that. Now, as a white man, I find it very difficult to write from, say, an African-American point of view. I was not raised that way. I think it would be insulting for me to try. I don't really know the homosexual experience, so I don't know how to write from that perspective, but I can add it into everything, sprinkle it around like salt, and try and make it a normal world where people are treated equally, and therefore be an ally to that slow move away from prejudice.
Yeah, I think people are just not aware so much, and trying to get people more aware is helpful if they're willing to even listen.
Yeah.
But I saw a post online when Black Panther came out, and this woman was sort of bemoaning the fact that she wasn't going to be able to take her son to this movie because who would he identify with? And it's like, I bet you think you've never thought about little kids of color identifying with white heroes. You know, it never crossed your mind. But now you're like, well, I can't take my little white kid to the movie because there's black heroes in it. And you're like, what's the difference, you know? And could you just walk up to her and say, well, did you think about this? Would she kind of go, huh? Or would you be like, you know, you don't know what she would react, but try to just get people to say, hey, think about it a little bit, right? Do some reflection here.
Well, and that, again, I think that's the space the creative can really do something, because you don't want to say, well, here comes my gay character. You know what I mean? It's like you just work it in like it's a normal thing, and then some people you're never going to change their mind, right? They're going to write bad clips on Amazon about your book because there's a gay character. Whatever, you know. Yeah, but somebody might think, okay, well, look how normal that is, right? I didn't even realize they were gay until later on. You know, that's that kind of thing where a creative could work it in and just make it normal.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts then on representation?
No, I just keep writing them and keep making it real, and then as everybody can start to see what they represent in art.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for this episode of Writer's Room. So remember, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.